Cannes started, the Cannes Film Festival. So a lot of people I know are there, and it's just such a great energy and excitement of, you're showing off your movies, you're pitching projects, and I was just thinking, we're going to go to Cannes.
We're gonna go.
It's just going to happen. I mean, the story is just so freaking good, and I just absolutely love it. And so, anyway, I'm gushing, but anyway, Cannes is awesome, and you're going to go. We're going to go. That's all there is to it. Putting that out into the universe.
We're manifesting it.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. So what we did, or what you did, is you put out an announcement for what people wanted to see in the movie because there are so many freaking awesome elements in Much Too Vulgar. And I want to say this is the book. So people, if you haven't read it, go to Amazon.com or Viggy Parr Hampton's website and get it because it's freaking amazing. Um, anyway, so we put out like a poll and what are the top two that won?
The top two are everybody wants to see the tunnels, and everybody wants to see Parabiosis, which that was a surprise to me. That was definitely a surprise.
Okay, people are gonna say, "What the heck is parabiosis?" I can't even
Yep.
say it right.
You said it right. So
Okay.
basically, it's an experimental method where you connect to organisms. It's often done with mice, it can be done with rats, and basically, it's going to sound gross, but you just kind of sew them together. And it's used in a lot of scientific studies to understand how factors in a circulatory system, like hormones, can affect other processes in the body. It also has been done with immunology research and aging research.
It sounds really gross. It sounds very Frankenstein-like.
It is.
Have you actually done it yourself when you were in
No,
school?
no, absolutely not.
All right, so do you want to give anything away in the book about how it comes about or what?
I will say that this is a very difficult experimental procedure, and it's something that our main character Keely thinks that, if I can just do this, I can show them all. And that's all I'll say. It's her white whale. She wants to be able to do this so that she can feel validated.
Yeah, how do you feel about parabiosis? I can't talk. Parabiosis. How do you feel about that as, not a scientist, but just like a regular mom? Like say if your son came home and say, "Hey, guess what, mom? Look what I did." You know.
I would probably be horrified. I mean, people ask me this all the time about my books is doesn't this scare you? Doesn't this gross you out? But once I write about it, it loses its power to bother me. So if somebody said, "Will you go perform this?" I would say absolutely not. I even in college I opted out of the rat dissection because I am very squeamish. So I find it kind of horrifying, but at the same time it's led to a lot of discoveries. So it
Okay,
kind of depends on your stance on animal research.
so you're squeamish, and some of the things you write, like you have a new book coming out, but we'll get to that later. And that just the title makes me squirm. So, all right. So the tunnels, there's a lot of lore to Georgetown University's tunnels. Do you want to jump in and say how that's come about and how that ties into the book?
Absolutely. So Georgetown is a very, very old school. It's coming up on 300 years old. And the main building is called Healy Hall. And underneath the building are a system of maintenance tunnels, but they're not particularly well hidden. I have been down there. It's very creepy. You have to crouch to get through them. It's covered in pipes, and things will drip on you in the dark, and you're just hoping it's water. And every now and then there's kind of a chamber with, empty beer cans and graffiti and stuff like that. And it's a very creepy place to be. I would not want to be down there by myself, and I would not want to be lost down there.
Do you think it's haunted?
I wouldn't be surprised. With Georgetown being so old, I mean, there's probably a ghost in most places.
Okay, well, there are a lot, because the school is so old and it's Jesuits, right? And then so they have like all their secret meetings and, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that us regular folk can have no idea about. Do you think
Mhm.
anything devious has happened in those tunnels?
I wouldn't put it past Georgetown. I mean, 300 years of history, probably something weird has gone down there. I mean, it happens. Weird enough stuff happens in the light, so you can only imagine what happens in the dark.
Well, I was just thinking to the way to show this in the movie is going to be so freaking awesome. I mean, because it is so mysterious, the dangling light bulb, and because there are lights down there, right?
Yes, they're few and far between, but there are lights.
So it just lends itself to horror. which is so awesome. So do you want to share how Keely ends up in the tunnels?
So Keely is our lovely protagonist, and she wants to be able to perform a parabiosis operation. She wants to dissect animals on her own, and she quickly realizes that her basement apartment is not going to cut it. There is not enough security there. Anybody could walk in and see what she's doing. So one day she follows a particularly large rat, and it goes into a doorway on the side of Healy Hall and falls down. And she thinks, okay, that's weird. What's down there? She follows it and she finds the tunnels, which turn out to be the perfect place for her makeshift laboratory.
I like it. Now, what's interesting is the way she finds the tunnels is what happens just before that. Now, was that was that on the list? It was on the list. How did that score?
The Georgetown Cuddler,
Yeah,
it was third.
it was third. Okay, well, so all right, that kind of all ties in together. Do we want to talk about that, or do we want to keep that the surprise?
We can keep that a surprise, or let's talk about it in our next live, because that's a
Okay.
whole story all on its own.
Right. Okay. But I think what's so cool about these tunnels, Georgetown itself has such, like a mystery about it, because it is so old. And, when people think tunnels, they always think something devious, like what's really going on down there, and so your imagination can really start going wild and crazy. And for Keely to feel so at home in a way in these tunnels is just kind of just adds to her creepiness. And yet she's such a sweet girl. She's just
Yeah.
such a sweet girl. Uh,
I'd be friends with her.
Right? Because she seems so, but she's so sarcastic and oh, and her jokes. All right, just she's just so personable. But do you think she would ever want to take anyone down to the tunnels intentionally?
Probably only if it were against their will.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So she does run into some people down the tunnels. And that's part of the story. And it's so crazy because I really want to talk about it, but I don't really want to give stuff away. So, um, does anyone out there have any questions about these tunnels? Because Viggy has actually been down in the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to describe what that was like? And if,
Sure. So it was surreal. I will say that. So in the book, our protagonist Keely, she really wants to get into this research program called the Howard Hughes Research Program. I know about it because I was in it when I was at Georgetown. And one of the things we did, I mean, we were on campus all summer, nobody was around. We went down into the tunnels. And I remember opening this door on the side of Healy Hall, climbing down a ladder, and then just holding the person in front of me, and we were all crouching like this and walking and making sure, I never want to let go of anybody because I'll get lost. I'll never find my way out. And every now and then there'd be a chamber with all kinds of, like I said, empty beer cans, graffiti. Maybe I added my own. It's possible that really happened. And we just kind of hung out in there for a while. And then it was pretty clear that it was time to go. I'm terrified of spiders. And I was like, I'm sure they're down here. I'm sure there are rats down here. Let's go. It was a very fun excursion, but I only did it once.
okay, would you ever want to do it again?
Not on my own, but yeah, I would. I want to see if they live up to my memory.
Oh, do you think it's worse?
It's probably about the same if I had to guess. I'm sure there are students who, have come after me that have gone down there more recently, and I imagine it's probably the same.
So what's so interesting is they kept the doors open to it. They didn't lock it. And you
It
think
might
they
be
would have,
locked now. Like, I do worry if there are a bunch of students there now after thinking, oh, I could go find the tunnels now that I know where they are. I still don't really know how our guide got in there. Like, I don't know if they were just always unlocked or he just got lucky or he had a key. I really don't remember.
how many were there of you? Like five or
Maybe
four?
10?
Oh, 10. Oh, that's much bigger.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of, but you saw beer cans down there too, right?
Mm-hmm. So we were not the first to go down there.
Okay, that's really spooky. Well, that would be good. That would be a very creepy date, for a guy to take a girl down there. But hey, it's like, yeah, it definitely has horror vibes all over it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really well. Now, do you think there are secret compartments that are still used down there, or do you think it's just completely abandoned?
Oh, I don't think it's abandoned at all, which is also a creepy part. I think people definitely go down there for various maintenance reasons, but Like I said, it does. People don't go down there often. So if I heard footsteps down there, I would be freaked out for sure.
Wow, that's so wild. Well, it's so wild since horror is such a big thing right now, and seems like, people really get like a rush and to really go there in person. You know, I don't know, do you think people like to have like that real experience versus the experience in a movie? Or do you think
Oh,
they
I
prefer just the
think
movie?
so. I mean, one of my dreams once we get this movie made is that Georgetown does a Much Too Vulgar tour on campus, and we can all go down in the tunnels and see what they're really like.
That would be wild. Okay, are there are breakaway rooms though in the tunnels, right? Where there's not so tiny?
Yes, yeah, there are. But
Okay,
it would be you'd have to be prepared mentally for that experience.
yeah, I can imagine. Now is DC haunted overall? Because I know Savannah is haunted. The whole city is, but is Georgetown?
Yes, and it definitely has its fair share of ghosts. And, The Exorcist was filmed there based on a true story of an exorcism that did happen in the Georgetown, D.C. area. So, yes, definitely haunted.
Okay, so how far are the Exorcist steps from the tunnels? Is it pretty close, or
They're about a block or two right off of campus. Hmm.
so that's pretty close.
It's pretty darn
Right.
close. One of the campus buildings is literally right next to it.
Could you access the tunnels from the stairs, or is it
No, they're
no?
they're totally separate.
Okay, but they're very narrow, right?
Very narrow, very steep, uneven. I mean, some of the steps are like this, some are like this. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you will fall.
Wow, that's crazy. Can you, can you imagine someone falls and then they drag him to the tunnels and dispose of the body there? No, erase, erase.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's I'm not giving any ideas to anyone. It was just, it's like, huh, interesting. Well, okay, so from what you remember of the tunnels, was there anything that kind of stood out as when you were a student there about it? Like, would anyone like really talk about it in any kind of haunting way, or was it just something that was there? Or
I just remember somebody saying, "Hey, do you guys want to go down in the tunnels?" And of course, I people didn't really talk about it. So, but I had a friend who was very much in the know about all the things related to the campus. And I said, "Well, sure. I mean, as long as I'm not going down by myself." But one of the things I remember that was kind of eerie was we came out into this chamber and there was a pyramid of beer cans all stacked together. And I don't know, that just really freaked me out. And all different kinds of graffiti. People had colored on a boiler to make it look angry. So, I mean, it was a weird place.
okay, people are artistic, it's like, all right, an angry broiler. That's kind of funny, you know. But it does have horror vibes to it, which I guess is
Yeah.
kind of cool. All right,
Yeah.
so do you think there are a lot of rats there in the tunnels? Like
Probably.
a
I mean,
lot.
Georgetown, DC in general, the rats are the size of small dogs. And yeah, so I definitely think there are rats down there. There are rats everywhere.
Wow. So when Keely gets her rats, she gets some pretty hefty ones too. You don't, what is her appeal with rats? I mean,
They're easy to catch and they're easy to deal with relatively. So, I mean, she's an opportunist and there's an opportunity right there all the time.
yeah, it's like, because, yeah, just the different size rats and that she names them too. I think that's really cool.
Yes.
I kind of like that, especially, well, now they say that the rats in that area are like as big as small dogs. How does she find a skinny one?
Maybe it's a young one. Or
Right.
maybe it's one
Okay.
that got beat out by the really fat ones.
Right. Okay. It makes me think of Ratatouille. My daughter's seen that a million times. So- and they have personalities. Oh my gosh, these rats really do have personalities. All right, so when we do the movie, you do not want to use any AI. You really want the artist to be very artistic and creative. And so we've been talking about how they can make these rats look real,
Hmm.
right?
Yes,
So
and I'm kind of thinking if anybody's seen The Substance, those practical effects, I love them so much. And I think there are artists that could absolutely have a field day with making the rats look like they're being parabiosed, making it look like they're being, perform surgery on them. And I mean, I'm macabre. That's the kind of thing I would totally hang in my house.
that would make a great Halloween gift or ornament for those people who like that.
Hmm.
That would be very, gross, but in a very cool way. Hey, yeah, that really, well, I think for an artist to really come up with something creative so it looks real, because I know a lot of the Jim Henson puppets,
Mhm.
that was so groundbreaking, like Jabba the Hutt, even to like Dark Crystal. But you can still kind of tell they're puppets,
Yeah.
you know. And my daughter actually went to an art gallery today, and she saw a statue of a person. He showed me a picture. It looked like a real person, only it wasn't real because the head was cut off and then put back on. And so you could, I know, talk about macabre, right? So the
Yep.
head was cut off and it was like flat, um, just flat, not bones or anything, but just like flat. And then the head was put on, and there was probably like 2 inches worth of that disconnect. And I thought, wow, this looks like a real person. And if they could do that, I'm like, we can definitely do that with rats,
Totally.
which is kind of scary,
It is
right?
scary. I mean, the substance actually made me feel a little bit physically ill, which is kind of what I'm going for with this.
Okay,
Because it is supposed to be kind of gross. That's kind of the point. And I
right.
think if people can see it in the most realistic way possible without any animal harm, then they're going to feel Keely's emotions. They're going to understand more about her because it seems so real.
Right. Yeah. And well, and then I think what's so cool too in the book when she works with these animals, she really cares about them. She really expresses a lot of compassion for them, even though she's dissecting them and
Mhm.
ultimately,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was important to me because she's not torturing them just for the sake of torture. She's not a sadist. She's a scientist. She's doing experiments, and scientists do use animals. They do use animal models. That happens all the time. So I know some people had issues with this novel with reading it because of the animal harm, but and I get that. I get that. But the fact that this is a legitimate scientific experiment, that's kind of where I see the threshold as. That's where I draw the line. It's legitimate scientific research, although done in a perhaps illegitimate way.
Right, exactly. Well, how do you feel about scientists in real life working on animals?
I don't know. I mean, when I worked in a lab, we worked with bacteria, so I didn't work with animals. I had many friends who did, especially working in cancer labs. You know, you have mouse models for all different kinds of things. And I think it's a pretty important part of any sort of medical or scientific research, as sad as it can be. So,
Yeah, I agree. You know, but I think what's crazy is when you have these companies that really push the limit on stuff,
mm-hmm.
and really go beyond, and then you see, yeah, they just get evil in a sense, which is a whole different horror story,
Yes,
you
it
know.
is.
But I think what's so great about Keely, she really does have this innocence about her, and she just really desperately wants to be like the best surgeon in the world and really practice and get her hands on it and really do whatever she can because no one is really supporting her in any way, not even her family, which is kind of cool. When you were going to Georgetown, did you know of anyone like Keely?
Absolutely not. No. I don't think that we would have gotten along. I am more of an Erica, who is our other main character.
Um,
Keely, she sprang out of, everybody has, mean, nasty thoughts every now and then. Nobody's perfect. And so Keely is basically an embodiment of all of my nasty thoughts that I've ever thought, but of course never acted on. But of course she acts on them. And that was just a fun cathartic exercise for me.
well, it's very cool because she's a very rich character, and very intelligent, and just, she's so flawed, but I mean, she's an amazing anti-hero. That you love her, but you hate her,
Yeah.
but she's
See
like,
what she's going to do next.
right, and what's she capable of, and
Mm-hmm.
why is she capable? And then you start realizing, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and then you start kind of cheering her on, and I think, okay, that's, she's just, I think any young actress would love this role because
I
she
think so
has
too.
so many layers, and she's pretty, and she has this heart and this compassion, and do you think Roger is another character in the book? Do you think he's ever been in the tunnels?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Roger is another complicated character that I do plan on writing a sequel to Much Too Vulgar, and he will have a bigger role.
Okay, I like that. All right. Do you think anyone other than Keeley or students at Georgetown would have been in the tunnels?
Maintenance workers, maybe
Okay.
Jesuits, maybe other Georgetown staff, but more
Not
than anything,
really.
I think it's a place for students to be like, "Oh, have you been in the tunnels? Let's go down there. That'd be a fun thing to do."
Okay. Do you think Father O'Mara really knows anything about the tunnels?
Besides the fact that they exist, I think that's
Right.
about
Okay. All right. Yeah, because he seems like he knows a lot, but he says little. It's just like,
still water
hmm.
with him.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, let's see. Does anyone have any questions? First of all, has anyone out there actually been to the tunnels in Georgetown? Because we might have some Georgetown alumni. Go Hoyas. And if you've been to the tunnels, let us know. Feel free to drop us a message if you want, a DM, and let us know your tunnel story. That would be really cool. And if you have any stories about Georgetown at all, because I know you being a student, I'm sure you have tons of stories, and that's always kind of fun to hear, especially since this whole story talks, it's about being on campus the summer semester and just like so much stuff going on. Now, during the summertime, there aren't very many students out,
Right.
right? Like probably a fifth of the bot,
Or less. I mean,
less.
it felt pretty deserted over the summer, with the exception of us who were working in labs or other people who are there working over the summer. But for the most part, it's kind of a ghost town.
Oh, okay. All right. So the okay, I've never been there. The way the housing is it all pretty close together to campus, or is it kind of all very
It depends. If you're
varies?
on campus, everything is super, super close. If
Mhm.
you are off campus, which Keeley is, then you could be, a couple of blocks off of campus. So even if you're off campus, everybody is very, very close, within walking distance easily.
Okay, and what's the summertime like? Is it super hot and humid, or just humid?
Super hot and humid. I mean, DC is a swamp. So it was super hot and humid. It's like you're just, everything is sticking to you wherever you go, and everything just feels slow and kind of sultry.
Okay, all right. That I have to go visit. I really do.
Gotta go visit.
I have to go visit. That's all there is to it. So, in regard to the summertime, so does everything like go lights out at 7 o'clock, or when does the night? I mean, when does the day end?
Well, when I was there, I mean, all of us got off work at 5, and then we all hung out until 11 p.m. or midnight
Oh,
before we got up and, did it all again the next day. So if there are people around, students, we're usually like hanging out, partying, that kind of thing. But I mean, there are still security guards around campus. Like, that's very
oh,
real, especially in some of the buildings that are partially abandoned. Like the old science building would always have a guard there because people would try and sneak in, which we did very successfully. So who knows how good the guard was. But yeah, it's it's alive if you know where to look, but if you don't, then you're like, where is everybody?
so wow. Okay, so all the stores close. Are they open late or do they close early? So when you
on
hang out,
campus, on campus, a lot of things are closed.
okay,
In Georgetown, so there's campus, and then there's Georgetown, the town,
right.
and there's M Street, which is super lively. There are bars, there are restaurants. That's always open. I mean, the stores closed, but the restaurants and the bars and the everything, the clubs are open. But if you're in certain parts of Georgetown, it's very residential. So even though there's parties happening one block over, you could be very isolated just one block away from that.
So where do people party other than the tunnels?
The townhouses or the apartments.
Oh, okay. So all right. So but everyone knew about the tunnels, right?
I honestly don't know. I knew that my friends knew, but I
Okay.
don't know how many people did. Unless you had somebody who would take you down there was really no reason for you to know.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. And then if they don't know, obviously, yeah. Well, I would think it's probably closed by now. I
I
would
would
think.
have to imagine it is. I mean, I
Yeah.
would have to imagine there's like a padlock on that door or really good security because they don't want students going down there.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a liability.
Can you imagine getting lost down there?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Or someone dies down there.
It
That
would
would
be
be pretty.
horrifying, especially knowing that there's like Georgetown is a very small campus. It's densely packed. So the idea of getting lost somewhere when there are hundreds of people just a few feet above you, that's terrifying.
Yeah, yeah, that is. But Keely really takes charge though in the tunnels. It's like she really pieces things together brilliantly, which I just really admire her for doing that because she is so smart. She's like on a mission and it's like she's gonna get it done, and so but when she brings Parabiosis back, and I'm not going to say how or why. I want to, but I'm not going to. Read the book. It just really lends itself to really, something that could be really rich, and that's kind of exciting, to see how that's going to play out. That's just
Yes.
like, and how she pretty much crosses her own line too, which is really interesting to see. You know, oh gosh, I can't wait to see this made.
What are you most excited about to see in the movie?
And there are so many things, but I have to say that climate to me, that scene in the tunnel that we kind of talked about with Erica, and we haven't talked about Erica yet. We'll have to talk about Erica. Um, that to me is the most exciting, to
Mm-hmm.
see how that, and because there are just so many layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even in the book, just the way it plays out, and I have to. Okay, can I say the dog cage?
Sure.
All right. So when Keely finds the dog cage, and just that moment where she sees it and then she decides to take it. And like, hmm, it's just like that one little moment, it's like, it's kind of like the universe is saying, hey, go with it, and like, and she takes it and like, okay, so it's like everything just ties together so beautifully and has like this nice flow, and you feel for her, but you are cheering her on,
Yeah.
because you want to see her succeed, because of everything that's happened and where it's been going, and she just has this, like, she's just so freaking smart, and I just find that really fascinating, and then just that, we see so many sides to Keely. If I was in my 20s, I'd be like, that'd be a role to die for. I
Oh,
just,
yeah.
it's a to die for role. All right, so any young actresses out there in your 20s, just know this Keely is going to be freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm. She's
So
very multifaceted because I am not interested in a villain that's flat or like a caricature of somebody. I want an anti-hero. Like you said, I want somebody that you sympathize with and then you're concerned because you're like, why am I sympathizing with somebody who's so horrible? But wait, is she horrible? I mean, to me, that's the most interesting part of her character is that you can't put your finger on, oh, she's all bad or she's all good or she's all anything. And that's how humans are. None of us are all bad or all good.
right. Well, some people are very annoying, but that's okay. We won't go there. But I have to say, there's not a single character in the story that's boring. Every character is fascinating. They all have their own depth, and they all have their layers. No one's written just to have a character in there. I mean, everyone has purpose. Everyone has a very full, rich life. Like, okay, Annie, Aunt Annie. um, I think she's so much fun too. Just the way you've written her, and I, again, a role an actress would love. And even the guys, you know, they they have so much to bring too, which I think is really cool. So I'm just so excited for the story because I know it's going to really resonate with people because people are going to remember when they were in college, they had certain experiences, or when they had that date that didn't go well, or
Yeah.
just so many, or their relationships with different people, and how it just, I think it's just going to hit people on different levels, as well as go on this journey, which is really mm, awesome and exciting and very memorable too.
Yeah, because I
Which
mean, it's just a pivotal point in your life when you're in college and you're trying to decide who am I and what am I going to do with the rest of my life. And this is kind of where it starts. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And like you said, I think a lot of people love reliving kind of their college years, their college experience, and seeing how it might have been on other campuses. That's one of the things I'm most excited to see, is just to see how Georgetown translates to the big screen in a movie that isn't The Exorcist.
Well, The Exorcist is making a new movie now. They're
Yes.
they're going to be in production, I think, later this year because it's supposed to come out in 2027. And so Ellen Bernstein's in it from the original, which is going to be really exciting to see. So I'm hoping that momentum really pours over into Much Too Vulgar.
Me too.
So I think it will,
I
because
think it will.
yeah, there's a rich history with Georgetown
Mm-hmm.
that I think people will be curious to see. So do we have, all right, I have to admit, I can't see without my glasses. And I'm like, all right, well, everyone, thanks so much for joining. It's so great to see so many of you here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach on out, and we can always DM you or reach out later. But I'm very excited about this project.
Me too.
Viggy, I was about to call you Keely, sorry. You're such a talented writer, and you are so prolific. You just literally crank it out, which is, I love that energy. So I want to talk about Erica briefly too, because she is super smart. She's beautiful. She pretty much has the entire package, but yet she even feels like she has that something missing. Like
Mm-hmm.
she wants that something, but she doesn't quite know what. And for her to see her journey also, which
Mm-hmm.
is, it's like everyone has these arcs that are just so incredible and just so beautiful, because as an actor you really get to dive into all those and find all the nuances and the subtext and really just go on this journey of growth, and still have really exciting moments too. But I think any actress would also love that role. I think these are the type of roles that really stick with you. I
Yeah.
think of Gwyneth Paltrow in that Shakespeare movie. What was it?
Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah, Shakespeare in Love. And she and Winona Ryder were like fighting over the lead role, and there was like all this controversy, and they lost their friendship over it because Gwyneth Paltrow, there, who knows what the real story is, but I see these roles being like that.
Mm-hmm.
People, actresses wanting to fight over Keely because she's so rich and just so much to play with, which
She's
is
a
so
juicy
exciting.
character. She's a very juicy character.
And the best part is, it's like, there's this whole world after this movie too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, so you have to write the sequel, the
Yeah.
next book. Is it in the works, or is it
So I'm
like,
working on one right now, which is unrelated to Much Too Vulgar, and then I'm hoping after this one I will write the sequel. I have a title for it, and I will start working on that hopefully in the fall.
okay, do you want to share the title?
It's called Much Too Vicious.
Oh, okay. I like that. And it's not part of the Keeley world at all?
It is. It's a
Oh,
full
it is.
sequel. It will be a full
Oh,
sequel.
okay.
This is
Oh,
the
okay.
that's the Much Too Vulgar sequel. The one I'm working on right now doesn't have a final title.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, much if that works. I like that. That's very cool. How far in time is it? Or is it pretty close to?
I think it's gonna end up being about 4 years or less in the future. She's out
Okay.
of college,
Oh,
and yeah, I have plans for her.
okay. I love it. That's gonna be very exciting. And do we see anyone else?
Roger will be there,
Okay.
and we will see her mom. They have a
Okay.
very troubled relationship, and I'm not yet sure if any other characters we know will make an appearance.
Okay. Remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. All right. Well, did you want to say anything about Erica as
Hmm.
the character?
Well, like
Because
I told you, Erica is more based on me. She
mm,
works in a lab. She, like you said, she's very put together. She's very smart. She's very socially adept. So she's kind of like the perfect daughter that Keely
mm,
thinks her own mother would have wanted. So
mm,
Keely both admires her but also resents her. and she wants to be like her, but she also wants to get rid of her. So she has a very complicated relationship with her, and most of the time Erica has no idea that that's going on in her head.
Yeah, she's very focused in her own little world, and there are a lot of people like that,
Yeah.
which is fine. They are. What about Father O'Mara? What do you think about him? He's kind of like the glue to everything.
Yeah, I think he's kind of a fatherly figure. He wants to be there for everybody. He's a Jesuit priest, and he wants to give off this air of, you can come talk to me. Like, I can take care of you. You don't have to, be alone. But in terms of Keeley, he does not know how to give her the help that she needs. And anytime he does try to help her, she's not grateful for it. She hates him for it. And he can't see that.
I have to say, I don't think a lot of people are going to know what a Jesuit priest is or Jesuits, period. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
It's Jesuits are the Society of Jesus. It's an order. They're not monks, but it's an order. Kind of think of that. It's a Catholic priesthood, and they kind of run Georgetown. Georgetown was founded as a Jesuit university, and they're very interested in learning and teaching. And one of their mottos is "Go and set the world on fire." So yeah, they have a big love of learning and teaching and sharing, and they're lovely. They really are. So I tried to put that in Father O'Meara. I think if somebody met him who wasn't Keeley, they would think he was great.
Okay, I like that. Now, were they the ones who took the vows of poverty, or were those the
I believe
Franciscans?
they do take a vow of poverty. Yeah,
Okay,
and all of them live on campus.
okay, yeah. th- Um, can we say anything about the peppermint tea?
Ooh, how much of that do you want to give away?
Oh, I don't know. Let's just say keep an eye out for peppermint tea. I think that was very cool. And you take a look at. I think people definitely need to read the book because that way, when they see the movie, they can see how many similarities there are, see what's changed. Some people don't like to see a lot of change in movies, though. They
Yeah,
like stuff to really stay close to the book. But you have so many things in the book, it'd be virtually impossible to put it all into the movie.
true.
Like Jaws.
Yeah, yeah.
Jaws had the novel was like amazing. The movie was great. So
Mm-hmm.
you really have to like pick and choose. Um, okay, so do you think your fans would be okay with an adaptation of?
I mean, I'm okay with it, so I hope they would be okay with it. I'm just excited to see that because one of the things you and I have talked about is so much of this novel is in Keeley's head and we get her thoughts. And we wanted to create a movie that did not have voiceovers. So, in order to do that, we have to show a lot of things differently than they appear in the book to get the message across in a visual way. And I think that is a super fun challenge. And I'm really happy with how the script is turning out. And I think that's going to be a very dynamic way to see inside of her head.
Well, I think there's so many moments too with the right camera work and the right music and the lighting. I mean, this movie just starts off, you know, having people on edge.
Yeah.
Which is I love that. I just love that because something big is going to come, and it's like, oh, what's it going to be? It's like, So I'm super super excited about it. All right, so I have I wanted to ask you, do you think the public can go in the tunnels at Georgetown if the door is still open, or is like totally off? I mean,
Yeah.
the public usually doesn't even go on campus, right? It's not
No,
like open
anybody can
for.
go on campus. It's
Oh,
open.
really?
You can go on campus. But yeah, the tunnels would be something where if you were trying to open that door, somebody would be like, let's not do that.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's a college town anyway, pretty much,
The
right?
Georgetown part. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of it's on the west side of DC and it's kind of its own little bubble.
Right. So it's not like you have a lot of people go over just because, right?
Uh, People come to
Like
Georgetown all the time,
tourists.
shop and eat and stuff, and people will come and look on campus. There are a lot of people who go there for tours. I mean, it's a
Okay.
beautiful campus. So yeah, there are people around a lot, and then you have famous people who come because they're doing speaking events and stuff like that. So it's a very lively campus during the school year.
Okay. So in the book, we have a psychic. Is there actually a psychic in
I
the
think
areas
there
that?
in Georgetown, I think there's definitely a psychic. I don't think she's where I have her in the book, But
Uh,
yeah, Georgetown has its share of little tourist traps like that.
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And there are a lot of tourists,
So
you
many,
say?
so many.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm super excited, and there's just so many things to talk about. I know we talked about we just keep it to tunnels and Parabiosis, and Parabiosis still really creeps me out, especially since I see these videos, and whether they're AI or not, I don't know, where you see like, half human, half pig, half other animal, and it's like, oh, scientists are experimenting in secret labs, and I'm thinking, yeah, that can make a really good horror movie.
Yep.
And you see these really creepy looking things, and you're like, how much of this was, it's like messing with DNA or
Mhm.
actually sewing pieces together? Have you seen the new Frankenstein movie with
I have not yet, but
okay,
I was so happy to see it won an Oscar. So I really want to see
yeah.
it.
So it's just like, I mean, just the way Annette Bening, she plays the mad scientist,
Oh.
she would make a great Ellen,
Ooh,
right?
she would.
She's awesome. Anyway, so what she does is it's really cool. Um, it's like it kind of makes you wonder, do they actually do stuff like that? And it's like, we like to think people are more normal, but are we really normal?
No, not at all.
No. All right, well, I want your new book,
Yes.
ripped up the middle in two. That
Yes.
title gives me chills. It really gives me chills. Yeah. It's like
For
that comes out
sure.
in July, right?
Yes, July 29th.
Okay. And I'm very excited for you. You're getting a lot of really great feedback on that. You're just so prolific, and you are so talented, and you write these stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, and you're like, you want to know these people, and that's what one of the things I love, well, about all your stories, but Much Too Vulgar, because you have this young girl, who's like on this journey that she's really kind of taking charge of in her own way.
Hmm.
And it's just really exciting to me to see the choices people make when they're confronted with something,
Hmm.
and how we feel for her and how it's going to get going. So I'm just wondering now, are people going to like start going to the tunnels because they know they're there now?
I
And
honestly, maybe they're gonna have to put a heavier padlock on that door.
oh, but people go through, because weren't you saying the hands on the clock are always stolen?
Yes. Not always, but it does
Oh,
happen. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, who can steal the clock hands on the Healy clock tower? But you get in big trouble if you get caught. So it's one of those you can do it, but you probably shouldn't.
so has anyone been caught for doing it?
I remember the clock hands were stolen once when I was there, and I don't know if anybody ever got caught.
Oh, well, hopefully not. Now, would you say there are a lot of cameras out now on campus?
Yeah,
Okay. Were there
probably way
cameras?
more than when I was there.
Okay. All right. Because I would just think there are cameras everywhere nowadays,
You
right?
know, that is not something that even crossed our minds when we were there over the summer. Probably should have.
Well, I guess in summertime, people aren't really paying attention to stuff anyway, right?
We
Or,
could go with that. Or, I mean, this was 2011 through 2015. So maybe technology just wasn't as sophisticated.
right? Or, if someone's sitting in front of the monitor, they're reading their iPhone,
Yeah.
or, right?
Mm.
You
Or
know,
they're thinking, it's a rite of passage. Let them go. It's fine.
right? You know, but it's funny. I didn't even think about that.
I didn't either
Yeah.
until you brought that up, actually.
But Georgetown's still kind of old fashioned in a way, right? Or would
Yeah.
you say it's like because it is more slow, meaning that no one's in a hurry to get anything done,
I
really?
don't know if I'd say that. I mean, I remember being busy all the time when I was there.
Um,
So
but-
I think there's a lot of history, and so people might think that it's, you know, stuck in time or something, but no, it's like you get a very modern education, and I know
um,
they have a lot of new investments too in different schools and everything. So if you feel the weight of the history, but that doesn't mean that you get to, learn historically.
okay, well that's good. That's good. And they do keep up with stuff. Well, that of course they do, right? And it's a private university,
Yeah.
right? Well, who knows? Um, we'll make it work anyway. Or yeah. we'll make it work. I don't think Keely's going to know anything about how to disable cameras from her phone. So,
Yeah, we're gonna rely on those security guards.
right. Okay. Yeah, we'll have them do something else. But it's funny because I know when I've been to Florida and it's really hot and humid, you really don't feel like doing anything. You just kind of like, you want to stay in the AC, you want to, you don't even really want to go to the pool.
You just
Well,
kind
that,
of there in a
right,
puddle.
right. Because if you go out in the pool, then, the mugginess and, well, from
Hmm.
what I remember, I wasn't crazy about it, but people adapt, I guess.
I mean,
Right.
I live in Savannah now, which is a very hot, very humid place in the summer. You adapt. I've learned to love it. I would much rather be hot than cold.
Right. All right. So, did we want to talk about any of the other issues that we had on the poll? Because we talked about a Keeley sandwich.
Yeah.
And do you want to share what a Keeley sandwich is?
I need to honestly reread that passage in the book. I remember it's Wonder Bread and bologna and something else, like kind of gross. We should do another live where we actually maybe have the sandwich.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Um,
Wasn't
yes,
wasn't it spam?
yes, it was
Yeah.
spam. It was
Yeah.
spam. It was
And
something that like maybe somebody would love, but was also just a little bit gross.
well,
Mm,
because you make a menu or recipes with
I
your
do.
books. What was the recipe made for Much Too Vulgar?
So I combined it with my first book, Cold Night for Alligators, and we had a cocktail called the Vulgar Alligator. It
Ooh.
was bright green. It was really, really cool.
Huh.
And very delicious too.
Really? How do you make it? Okay, how do you make that?
I don't remember. I know it had Midori in it, and I think it had vodka in it, and it was very refreshing.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have to make a cocktail, one of your cocktails for one of our next lives.
Ooh,
You
yeah.
know, if wouldn't that be fun? It's like, And you have to make a recipe for the movie.
Yes, I can do
Yeah.
that.
And so that's, and maybe we'll have to figure out how to put it in the movie, you know,
Mhm.
right? Figure that out in
Yeah.
one way or another. Yeah, and it's so exciting being this process of creation, it's like, nothing's set in stone, everything like, the idea phase, how you're going to do things. And it's very exciting.
Hmm.
Very
It's all I
exciting.
think about, honestly.
Right. Well, I think too, as people know what we're doing, I think we'll find a lot of people who want to see this movie made, who want to be supportive, and I think that means a lot because I know one person, he's like very secretive. He's like, well, people are going to steal your idea. And I'm like, well, it's based on a book, so it's like, but he's like, just don't say anything until it's done. And I think the way Hollywood, and I say Hollywood, me for filmmakers, is just changing so much. Everything's evolving so fast that you have to really do what's different,
Mhm.
and how is it different? I don't know what's different, but we have to really be open to, seeing opportunities, go for it, how we're going to make it happen. And I think talking about it is exciting, just,
Yeah. And bringing
putting out,
people in and making them feel like they're building it with us. You know,
right.
really a community thing.
And I think that's what's so great about this. And it seems like Georgetown is very community based. Everyone was
Yeah,
kind of like in a small community, and you know, everyone kind of there for each other. Um,
totally.
a couple of the professors seem really interesting. When you went to school, were there any professors that stood out for you that you?
Yeah, I had many, many great professors. Several, I mean, I was a biology and global health major, so most
uh,
of my interactions were with science professors, and I had some really, really great ones that were excellent teachers, excellent mentors, led their own labs, did all of these awesome things and still had time to meet with students one on one. So, yes, I had some excellent professors. I know the ones in the book, some of them are great and some of them are not. So, but I had great professors.
oh, good. Do you ever think about them in your real life, or they were just good for at the time?
They were good at the time, and some of them I kept in touch with as I went to grad school, but it's been 10 years since I was in college. So, it's been a while.
Not that long ago. It goes by so fast. It's
Mhm.
wild. It just way too fast. It's like, stop already. but I think it's I think teachers really are impactful or can be. So
Hmm.
it's really interesting to see the different types of professors in the story, which is kind of
Hmm.
really cool. So, and again, I think every character is so deep and rich, even from the smallest character. You know, as they say, there's no such thing as a small role because these characters you've written are so rich, which is very exciting. So I'm very grateful to be writing this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And it's going to be so much fun to get it made. Yeah, because it's going to happen. It's going to
Yeah.
happen. And like I said, and I went to Cannes last year, which was really exciting. And when I'm starting to see videos now on the socials, and it's just this incredible energy. People are so excited. They're making it happen, making connections. And of course, nothing ever happens overnight. It's just
Hmm.
like a constant grind. And well, that's what we do as artists, right? You're just constantly keeping to
Hmm.
the work, keep doing it, and you don't give up. Even when you want to just scream, you just can't. You can't allow
Yeah.
yourself to stop.
Hmm.
Yeah. And you keep going, and I love that. All right. Okay, is there anything else about the tunnels that you can think of that you would like to share?
Nothing off the top of my head, but if something comes up in a future live, we will talk about it.
Okay. All right. I It would be cool to go down to those tunnels though.
It would.
So
If you and I are ever able to go to Georgetown together, I'll see if we can get down there.
okay, that would be wild, especially since that beginning part when you have the rat drop down and you hear the splush, you know, and just like the sound design on that would be so freaking awesome, because it's late at night, and you see this rat. Then this rat has like a massive personality anyway, and
Mhm.
I'm picturing like this big, right, and
Yeah.
he manages to get through the door, so I'm thinking, okay, who else is down there that the door is slightly ajar? It's like, what is going on? And that's, a whole other side story. But
Yeah.
then you just hear it fall at the dead of night. That is creepy. That is just, that one moment is going to make people, which is
Yeah.
exciting. I know it's right. It's like I don't like watching horror movies, but I'm thinking, oh my God, that's going to be so good.
Yeah.
Just to, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, in the art department, how do you get a rat like that to like scurry about, So
Yeah.
it's going to be so awesome to see these creative minds put something together that's not CGI or,
Yeah.
not AI, and just have the rat look at Keeley. Because, there's that moment and they just,
They
like,
lock eyes.
right, that dueling moment. So I think that's going to be really cool. And people are going to be like, well, why is Keely out in the middle of the night? It's like, okay, read the book,
Yep.
or go see the movie.
Yep.
But you have an Audible out on Much Too Vulgar now, right?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Is
It's
that
available
also,
ebook, paperback, hardcover, audiobook, you name it, it's out there.
so is that all on your website or is that just all on Amazon or both?
Amazon, my website, my social media. I try and put links everywhere. So if you just search my name, you'll find it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, those rats are definitely going to be a character unto themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like the tunnels are a character, and these rats and Georgetown. It's so exciting, just so exciting. All right, well, it doesn't look like, of course, like I said, I'm blind without my glasses. I should get contacts, but I just don't want to deal with contacts.
You get that.
Yeah, I don't see any questions, but thanks so much to everyone who's actually out joining us. I appreciate it. Viggy is freaking phenomenal. I am so proud of you. I can't wait to read Rip Up the Middle in Two. This is like that. That's gonna be so good. I think we should do this again as things progress and just kind of let people know what we're up to and give more info and show them what a Keeley sandwich really is um and talk about other characters.
And the Georgetown Cuddler. That's a juicy one that needs a
Um,
whole live all on its own.
yeah, it really does. Oh, yeah, because I would really love to hear how that came up, how that was, because that adds such an awesome element to the story.
Hmm.
So there is nothing predictable about your story at all.
Thank you. That's
Nothing.
what I try
Yeah.
for.
And it keeps you on edge, and you have these new elements. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool, and how students react to each other, and even when Keely lies, that's gonna be fun to talk about too.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Viggy. I appreciate you taking the
Ew.
time to do this with me. And again, anyone out there, if you have any questions, if you want to have a question for Viggy yourself, or me, send a DM. We'll get back to you one way or another. And Viggy also has t-shirts. I saw that video of you wearing your red Much Too Vulgar shirt.
Mm-hmm. They're
Looks
available
awesome.
on Aficionado, which is in my bio, in my link tree. You can find all the links for the merch, for the books, for everything.
All right, cool. And we're making a movie. So just think, next year at this time will be a lot further along than we are right now.
Heck yeah, we will.
And hopefully we'll be a can, for the movie. But one step at a time. Might take 2 years, but we'll get there.
We'll get
You
there.
know, we have things in the works. Which is so exciting. All right. Well, is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
I don't think so. But if anybody wants to see a live about a particular topic, like Sophia said, DM us and we will dedicate time to answering that question.
Right. And it's kind of fun talking about this too.
For
Just
sure.